Big Edmonton welcome to Average Citizens, absolute powerhouse DJ couple from Vancouver who are killing it in the Western Canadian music scene. At Vibrators, we're really into all the cool things you are doing in music, as well as related to youth, sports, and mental health. So we're super appreciative that you have joined us for our second annual Vibrators Velvet and Blur Valentine's virtual edition. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. It's really cool that you guys are doing this, something a little bit outside the box. So thanks for having us.
No, that's awesome. That's what we go for. Yeah. But yeah, when Michelle and I launched this event last year, really we wanted to throw a party about love in all its shapes and forms for everybody, not just couples, not just electro music fans. The 2020 event was about a month before the pandemic really took hold here, but we decided not to let that stop us from doing it again this year, even if it has to be a bit different. But yeah, I'm really stoked to chat with you guys a bit about the virtual shift as well as self-love and what that means.
Keep the vibe alive.
Exactly, you got it, right? Right. Yeah, new song, right? But yeah, I wanted to ask you about the adjustment we've all had to make from, much more face-to-face interaction to a whole lot of virtual. There are definitely some downsides to internet communication, but it's also really cool that we can stay so connected in the middle of a pandemic. How do you maintain a healthy balance between the very real need for connection that these tools are actually quite helpful for with all that screen time?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because it's incredibly important that we remain connected. And I think that social media is an excellent tool if it's used correctly. But unfortunately, it's really, really easy to get sucked into. So social media is designed to keep you hooked, to keep you looking at it by like the best innovators, the best marketers, the best scientists in the world, these people who deeply understand human psychology. And so I think it's really incredibly important that we create boundaries and rules surrounding how we use social media or how we use our phones. And so for us, we have boundaries. So for example, we have a no cell phone in the bedroom rule. So we have this really cool alarm clock actually that's it's like a sun, and it wakes us up with the sun rising, and so it's like a fall, and
it's like a half sun, kind of like this,
and then birds chirp. So we don't.
It takes like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Actually wake you up.
So by the time it's not like wakes you up, it slowly wakes you up.
Naturally.
So we don't need to have our cell phones in the bedroom at all. So we don't look at them before we go to bed. We don't look at them in the morning at all. And so that's like our time. And those are like strict boundaries that we always adhere to. And then what other boundaries do we have surrounding them?
Well, to go deeper into that, I would say not only do we not like have them in the room, but we don't even look at them. For the first like hour to hour and a half, maybe even sometimes 2 hours in the morning, like no matter what's happening, what event we have or
airplane
we have
mode
to do, just like it's not part of our life until after all the self-love is taken care of, which is, like our morning routine, yoga, meditation, cold shower, stuff like that. So we just like, no matter what, that's never an option. So, and also the night before too, I would say we make sure we cut like zero screen time for at least an hour before bed, dim the lights, just bring the, chill it out, no computer, no phone, no matter what. Again, even if we're busy, anything, it's like just a hard stop. And
I think it's like, it's, you have to build an awareness surrounding how you use it. Because again, it's designed to keep you sucked in, and
but it's a great tool.
It can be a great tool if it's used properly, but it literally is designed to keep you addicted to it. And so I think it's important to cultivate awareness surrounding your own addictions, because we're all addicted to it. I am too.
At least the most popular apps anyways, like the phone itself.
Yeah. So, but you can get apps for that. There's an app for that.
No, that's actually
have a little willpower and put some ground rules down.
True. No, that's such a good idea because like it can really keep you alert and awake late at nights and get you anxious and going in the morning. It's such
stressful.
A good idea.
Yeah. It's super stressful.
You don't need it.
Yeah.
And I think that also just like having structure in your life as well can help with it. So if you have goals or tasks or structure, commit to nothing, become distracted by everything. And because these things are completely designed to suck you in, if you're not committed to anything, you're going to get fucking sucked into it real quick, and you're going to get addicted to it real quick. So I think that it's important to have like boundaries and structure. And like we use social media a lot. It's a part of our job. It's a tool. It's a platform. It's for us to connect with other people. But we try to use it only for that, and try not to scroll and do, there's always those times when you go to like check an email and next thing you know, you're like buying something on Amazon and you're like, what happened? So I think like having the awareness of like when you're getting sucked in and when to pull yourself out is really important. And one thing that taught me how to become really aware is I did this thing called a time audit. And I did this actually when I recently went through Cosmic Academy. Shout out Cosmic Academy, amazing community. But they had us do what's called a time audit, where you write down in hour increments everything you do throughout your day. So, and I did that for 5 weeks straight. It was like, but you know what? It's a big look in the mirror because you recognize like where you're wasting your time. And if you have to write down like, okay, I got up at 6 a.m. from, 6 till 7, I was doing yoga. From 7 till 8, I was doing this, blah, 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 throughout your whole day. Like nobody wants to write down like, oh, for these 3 hours, I was on TikTok. Like nobody wants to write it down. So you gotta do it. You police yourself, and then you're like, holy shit, like you really become aware of the time that you have throughout the day. So I think like the long-winded answer to your question is that we need to use social media intentionally, and we need to remain connected, and it's important. But I think that we have to set boundaries, and those boundaries come through awareness of our own practices and how they're making us feel and how they're affecting our day to day. Because, like we have these rules set in place where we don't touch our phones in the morning. And like, if you wake up and you look at your phone right away, you're going to feel anxious. Like you're going to see all the stuff you have to get done by the rest of the day. You might look at social media and start comparing yourself to somebody else. And it's like, you don't need that in your life until you want to use it as a tool.
Yeah. And you still that's really cool. I mean, the 3 hours, you don't want to be scrolling through TikTok, but you can still be on TikTok for 3 hours if it's creating an idea, making the movie, putting it up, shedding some love, talking to people. That's a productive way to use the tool properly. Right?
You're right. It's totally different, isn't it? Rather than just mindlessly scrolling.
And it's different for artists, and someone who isn't an artist who's just maybe on, it for like a fan or something. Like those lives are totally different, but so you obviously will have to use it one way or another, and put in your time.
No, that's very true. Different uses for different people, different roles. Makes sense. Yeah.
It's pretty wild, awesome. Like when you think about it too, because we are not designed as humans to take in everybody's fucking opinion.
Like everybody in the world at once.
Oh my gosh. It is like Josh is just what's the book you're reading?
Laws of Human Nature.
The Laws of Human Nature. Yeah. Like within the first, he's like, listen to this. He just read me like a paragraph from it, and it was talking about like how destructive social media can be, because like everyone's broadcasting their opinion, whether it's valid or invalid.
So many opinions, hey?
So many opinions, and it sways yours. And then it's like, and then you're like, am I even deciding this, or am I just, persuaded to think a certain way? And then it's also dangerous because we're tribal beings, like we love to be a part of a camp, a part of a community, and we're very much seeing people pitted against each other, and
that's dangerous too.
Yeah. So there's a lot of dangers, but
and those opinions have always been there. They just used to be at like only Thanksgiving from your family and like at the pub with your friends, and now it's like fucking 10,000 a day.
Right? Everybody everywhere, isn't it?
And that's only happened in the last 10 years, 15, I guess. But
wild.
Yeah, it's a
That's
lot,
why you gotta
for the
unplug.
human brain.
You gotta unplug from it.
Yeah. No, that's such a good idea. I love that idea of a time audit.
It's scary.
I'm sure.
Try it
It
out.
sounds like I probably wouldn't want to know some of it, but I think it'd be good for me. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
But if you look at it and you go, okay, let's learn from this and let's change some habits here. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
You gotta look in that
very
mirror.
true. Very, very true. Yeah. But yeah, no, I wanted to talk a little bit about self-love as well. And yeah, it's a form of love that I sometimes find can be really easy to forget about. The importance of prioritizing yourself. For me, one of the most important realizations about self-love that I had was learning how to not let mean people affect me so much. There are, normal healthy things like feedback and constructive criticism. And working in music, you have to be open to that and learn from it and grow from it. But, there are other situations where people are, kind of out of line, nasty, in inappropriate ways. And that stuff can really sting. Mm-hmm. So for me, the big self-love shift was realizing that, mean people, you're going to encounter in life some mean people, and they will try to drag you down. But the big thing for me, it's not actually about you. Mm-hmm. The thing about mean people is that the specific things they are mean about, these are the things that they are most jealous and insecure about. Mm-hmm. Because they wouldn't have a need to do this if they felt fine about those things within themselves. It might be the only coping tool they have to, on a surface level, temporarily stuff away that underlying hurt, but really they're just putting their biggest vulnerabilities on display. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's, I guess to everyone, that's kind of my big piece of self-love advice to hang on to, is just locking in that understanding. It can really give you power in those kinds of situations, knowing that it's not about you. Another piece of self-love I've learned is that you don't need to devote your love and energy to people and places that it's not coming back from in the ways that you need. Love is all around. So, that handful of treasured people you've collected throughout your life who value you and show you love in the ways you need, keep those people. And it's okay to stop chasing down people who don't treat you like gold. But yeah, no, that brings me to probably the part I'm most excited about. I wanted to ask you guys about your top self-love tips.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, before we answer that, I just want to echo what you're saying. And I think that's so important to separate, other people's opinions or judgments of you or whatever from what your self-worth is or how you think of yourself. And, we've certainly undergone a lot of criticism and scrutiny, and, we've had people do things to us that were downright mean as well. And it fucking hurts. But I think that you're so right. You got to take a step back. And the thing that we always say is just come from a place of love and understanding. And if you always come from a place of love and understanding, you recognize that you will never be able to understand what life is like for somebody else. You'll never see life from their perspective or their lens, or understand what they've gone through or the reasons why they're treating you the way that they are. And the best way that you can respond is through love and understanding. And if you take that route, you always come out better from it, I think.
It's so true. You can almost be empathetic with nasty people from that perspective. Yeah,
you have to be. And like you said, it's just a reflection of what, that they're feeling. It's not about you. So you need to calm down, which is hard to get used to. But when you can see it, you get better at it. And then you just got to send them love, which is also hard, but you get better at it.
And I've been thinking a lot lately about creating our art, for the few, not the many, for the people who it hits home with, and for the other people who, don't like it. It's just okay with being it's not for you, and that's okay.
Yeah,
that's totally fine. it's impossible.
Yeah.
So
everyone likes Star Wars. Or
yeah.
Mr. Dress, but they were both happy.
Yeah, and
Oh,
that's
exactly
totally okay.
Yeah.
But in terms of our self-love tips, I think like the one thing that we've learned very deeply over the past 10 months or 11 months now it's been, I suppose, is that
I think it's honestly been over a year now. Like we started before we went to Ecuador, like November, like last November.
okay.
Yeah, I'm just because I was like, okay, I'm really going. And all this stuff, I was living with guys, so
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's been a
Just like
lifelong
it doesn't
journey.
matter, but
I think that
hard in the last
yeah.
year or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that I was going to say is just like health and wellness over everything. If you want to thrive in life, it's not impossible to do it if you're unhealthy, but it becomes a lot more challenging if you're unhealthy. And so if you make your health and wellness a priority, it's gonna serve life to you on a big fucking loving platter. And you know,
for much longer.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because like we live in this society where it's like we just like accept that as we age, we're supposed to get fat and, you know, we're supposed to be unhealthy and all these things. But that's like really sadly untrue. And aging is like, I'm not going to deny that I'm not going to get old, but like health problems are just like an accumulation of shit over the years. And so
that you've collected.
Yeah. And so I think like investing in making good decisions throughout your day, every day is incredibly important. So recognizing that, you know, we don't get to choose our future, but we choose our daily habits, and those daily habits choose our future. So if we can invest in these small little daily habits, even if you're getting 1% better at your diet or 1% better at producing in the studio every day, that's going to add up very, very quickly. So yeah. And so
as will if you're getting 1% worse.
Yeah.
So it's your choice.
Yeah.
And both seem to be as hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Choose your suffering, man.
Choose your suffering. I call self-love self-discipline. That's how it started. It turns into self-love. But for me, it was like to actually get in a cold shower every morning without fail. Like, and still, you know, it gets better, but it ain't easy. And, you know, your mind tries to be like, no, but that's the self-discipline, which turns into the self-love. Same as like doing yoga. Like, it's so fun now and I love it. In the beginning, it was hurting. So even meditating, I was physically in pain. I couldn't do it. I was like, so it took the discipline to see the self-love, and you got to get past like that hump, which is, I mean, you know, lifetime, of course, but you do get past the initial, like really hard, you know, forcing yourself into like finally being like, okay, I see it. And that might take, you know, a long time, but it definitely turns into self-love. But I would say it starts with self-discipline.
Yeah.
I like that. And yoga is not that easy at the start, is it?
No.
So I think that like our biggest self-love tips, or the things that we do, is we have like, one is sleep. So it's
a foundation.
It's like, it's super important. And, you know, as bass house DJs, it's definitely something that, you know, we didn't care too much about before, you know, like having all these crazy sleep schedules. And it's going to be interesting for us to get back into the swing of things when the world opens back up again, because we have like really regimented bedtimes and wake up times now, and making that a priority, because, you know, if like sleep is just, it's when your body is rejuvenating. It's, you know, for your entire, for everything. It's if you don't sleep, you're gonna die.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Not just bass house DJs, like, you know, parents and people who have to commute to work every day and all sorts of stuff. Like, people, I think in these days, have cut sleep down as it's not as important as it used to be, let's say 100 years ago. And it's probably like, that's just a huge misconception that's really hurting us and putting us in our graves faster, and making the last, you know, 20, 30 years of our life miserable when they don't need to be, because we can heal ourselves just by getting that proper amount of sleep, and by thinking we can get more and succeed more, get more money by cutting out an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. We're, you know, it's wrong. We're hurting ourselves in the long run, and even in the short term, really. I mean, it doesn't take long for that to affect your body on 6 hours.
Yeah.
We're supposed to get more like 8 or 9 hours. And, you know, I don't know many people that get that.
And there's like all these studies about like, even there was a study they did on sleep where basically the findings found that like they showed people when they had like 5 hours of sleep and then versus people who had like 10 hours of sleep, and people perceived the people who had more sleep as more attractive. And then they switched it. So then they switched like the people who had only slept 5 hours now slept longer. And then they actually, the findings were reversed as well. So now like whoever was sleeping longer was found to be more attractive.
So it wasn't even the people's faces. It just like, and
just
they
how
just
much
showed
sleep
it to
they had.
random people, like who's more attractive.
It shows, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then like another crazy thing is that sleep deprived drivers kill more people than drugs or alcohol
combined.
Yeah. Like crazy. So it's like something that is so important. Sleep is so important.
Yeah. So and that's when your body, repairs itself. It's when your brain washes out itself. It's when, you get your non-REM sleep, your REM sleep, which are both so like important, right? And people are just like, there's a lot of like drinking and weed going on and stuff. And people like be like, oh, I got my 8 hours and stuff. But it's crazy. Like if you drink alcohol, it stops you. It's more like you're sedated. You're not actually getting that proper deep sleep. So you're taking away the REM sleep. And by doing that, you're not you stop yourself from being able to learn. And again, like I said, like rejuvenate your brain. So it's like, I've just been learning a lot about sleep lately. And it's funny because like, I feel like people don't know enough and there's a lot of myths out there. Like you're good on 6 hours, but the actual tests there's a very, very, very small amount of the population who can actually live on 6 hours. And eventually you're just creating like cardiovascular diseases, cancer, like all sorts of stuff. You're shortening your life by 10, 20 years. And at the end of your life is shit. And it's just like, wow, like, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
Like, man, it's an important. And I think a biggest takeaway, if you were to say, okay, well, because there's so many things you can do with sleep, but I found the biggest takeaway from it is always get the same amount of sleep 7 days a week in the same time. So if you go to bed at 10 and you're up at 6, do that 7 days a week. Don't try. You can't catch up on sleep, unfortunately, which sucks for ravers. When you do that damage and you stay up all weekend at the party, you can't just sleep it off, even though you think you are, because you're like, oh, I slept like 15 hours, 3 days in a row after Burning Man. And it doesn't matter. You automatically do that, but you're not, you can't get that back. You've damaged yourself for life. So if you do that too many times, then you start shaving off those
We've
years.
done it a lot.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's a great example how it's like it is hard for bass house or trance DJs, any DJ really.
Or like even now, like last weekend we stayed up like way too late. But whatever, you got to do it. You got to live.
But if you can have that in your mind to try to be like that 8 hour window, and that goes back to the phone thing too. If your melatonin doesn't start coming out into your brain until hours after you last see that screen. That's just the blue light at what it does to you, right? So that's why we have that break. So with candle lights, a little bit of reading, or just like talking, really nice. Just shut it right down, and then your melatonin can start releasing. Because if you go to bed from the phone to the bed to get the phone in that 8 hours, you're not getting 8 hours. You're maybe getting 5 or 6. So you're tricking yourself. And that's like misconceptions. That
killing yourself, dog.
People don't like, and even me, I didn't know this shit. And I was like, holy fuck. Like, I don't think many people know this stuff. And,
I know,
man.
Well, alcohol too, like you mentioned, like it seems like it's a good idea. Seems like it might help you get a nice sleep. But a few hours later, as it's wearing off, you're having a restless, really disrupted, low quality sleep. Like you might be waking up, tossing and turning the rest of the night.
You are, and you're just not getting that REM sleep, but you need to learn. Like they did this test on these college kids and they taught them all something and they waited a week. And then within 1 week, this one kid's like, they had no booze. They remembered 100% of it. And then the next day, these kids got wasted and they were like 40%, but then they waited cause you'll study maybe on a Wednesday and then you'll party on the weekend. So they wanted to see, does that affect it days later? And they remembered even less. And that was a week later. So thinking you're good on the weekend and you can shorten this and that and just still party and remember it, it's like, unfortunately, you're wrong.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sad truths, actually. When I read this book on it, I was like, oh man, like people don't even want to hear this shit.
It's so true. The things people don't want to know, but
yeah,
should.
You want to be able to party in your 60s and 70s like I do. So
you got to look after yourself now.
Yeah. So anyways, a lot of blurbing there, but yeah, I think,
Get your sleep.
Get
folks.
your sleep and
Get your sleep.
stop the phones in the morning and at night and do the same sleep though. Like figure out whatever you are and what's best for you. If you're getting up at 8, go to bed at midnight, but do it the same always and just don't mess with that. You see a lot of change.
And then after you sleep, have a super solid morning routine.
Yes.
So as we mentioned, we have no phones in the morning. So like my phone will literally be in airplane mode until I'm done my full morning routine. And what that looks like for us is the first thing is gratitude. As soon as we wake up, he writes it down. I actually
that's my second thing.
Oh yeah,
that's her first thing.
So ours are a little bit different, but as soon as I wake up, I start immediately thinking about what I'm grateful for, and I won't even get out of bed until I've thought about like 2 or 3 things. And it's not just like, oh, I'm grateful that I'm in a warm bed. It's like, no, I'm really thinking about it. I'm really feeling it, like really deeply feeling it. And then it's like finishing a full glass of water. I always make my bed in the morning too. And then if Josh jumps out of bed and has a cold shower right away. First.
Yeah. I think actually I'll go back on that because I thought you meant like writing in our gratitude books, but yeah, get up first thing. I'm like, thank you that I'm even alive. Cause that's fucking a huge fluke. And we should always super grateful for the fact that we get to voice any sort of opinion or breathe. So I do that. Ice cold shower. But actually, no, sorry. I drink a huge thing of water too. Like I drink this whole thing of water every morning, just right away. Cause you got to hydrate because through the night, your body's pushing all that out. So
it's called an inner bath.
Inner bath. Yeah. And then I go to the ice bath. Yeah. The inner bath. And then I go to the ice bath, which took me a long, long time to get used to.
He used to scream.
Oh God. And it's just as cold as it can go too. And now, but I was like, when I started, it was like 10 seconds. Now I can go up. I'm in there for like 5 minutes, whatever, even longer. And it's good. But the reason that we do that and the sleep thing, the main thing of it is it helps your immune system. So like, that's the whole point of it. I'm not doing it for fun. I mean, it's not really fun, but it's good to like challenge yourself, but there's a reason behind it. So yeah. And then from there, then we get back together.
Then we do yoga. So we do yoga every morning. And it's usually like 20 minutes, not like 20, a crazy
20 to 30
minutes. And then we meditate together and we do 15-minute meditation. And then I'll make lunch for us for the day. I always prepare our lunches and then we have coffee and then we read. We read for like just about an hour every morning.
Sometimes longer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And that's like all before we even take one look at our phone. Unless if we're like, sometimes I'll like take a photo of something or whatever, but like we're not like it's in airplane mode. We're not like using it.
Which is which to some people sounds like hell because even for me, like there was no way I would get up and not just look at my phone. What happened last night? Shit happens all night long. You know what I mean? Like, and I get that. And you really, the self-discipline before self-love, you gotta discipline yourself.
Yeah, I love that.
But it doesn't change. There's nothing from 6 to 8 that you're missing out on. Don't worry. You just feel better.
Yeah.
But I think that one like really important or two, I guess, but mindset and mindfulness, I think are so incredibly important. We live in a world that is bombarded with social media. There's so much uncertainty happening around us with constantly changing and evolving restrictions or rules or whatever's happening with the pandemic, mixed with social media and social comparisons. And I think it is so important for us to learn to focus on what we have control over and to start to learn how to control our minds, our thoughts, our emotions, our focus on a daily basis. And if we want to be able to remain calm and in conviction in the face of adversity, if we want to, have some control in our lives, we need to learn how to tame this beast right here. And that's life work, but it is so important. It's everything. So if you can take anything from this talk, I hope to the people who watch this, I hope it's that, I hope you develop a daily mindfulness practice. And that I would advise meditation because I think that's the best way. But mindfulness can come in many forms. Next time you eat, actually fully sit with your food. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at TV. Actually look at what you're
It's 3:00.
And if you're having a blueberry, like look at the blueberry, feel it, like put it in your mouth.
Mindful eating, hey?
Yeah. Think about where it came from. Think about the farmer. Think about who picked it and who delivered it to you, and just really be with it. And there's actually research to suggest that your body is going to digest the food more easily because you're sending more signals to your brain to, release different type of digestive enzymes. And so you're going to digest the food more efficiently as well if you're being mindful about what you're eating. So like that's just one example, but you can step into moments of mindfulness daily. And I would really suggest creating a meditation practice. I actually do, and after our morning routine, I do another 45-minute meditation every day. And it's the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it's all about, so we practice negative emotions a lot. We practice stress, we practice anger, we practice fear. And so Joe Dispenza's work is a lot about getting out of those habitual patterns, these thinking, feeling loops that we're addicted to, and instead practicing love, practicing joy on a regular basis. And so I do those 45-minute meditations, but you don't have to do that. But even 2 minutes of sitting and calming your mind and learning how to become centered is going to help you in the long run. There's so much research to back it up. It's incredible. Like you're going to be more calm. You're going to be more compassionate. You're going to be more caring. You're going to be happier. You're going to live longer. You're going to have more space to have deeper conversations in your life. And if you're a DJ, it's going to help you on the decks too, because, if you're under pressure and you got a crowd in front of you and someone important's behind you and you need to focus in that moment, if you've been training your mind how to focus and how to get rid of extraneous variables, you're going to be able to capitalize on those opportunities. So this isn't just for like high performance, but it's also for everyday life. So, again, in a world where it's like, we want everything right now, we want it super fast. And it's just, our attention spans are shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. So I think that's no really ending important.
To it. It's forever. Like there is no end. And I agree with what you're saying, that you should do that. But also I think that just be easy on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself, and don't compare yourself to the master yoga lady who meditates and yogas all day, because dude, it's going to hurt. I've been there, and it's slowly, like, even being able to meditate properly, whatever that is, like actually staying there with no pain for 15 minutes is like a huge feat for me. Like 5 minutes was like killing my back and all sorts of shit. And I'm like, I'm in good shape. Like, what's going on here? But like, it's because I was comparing myself and thinking there was a right way or wrong way to do it. And it's like, just drop that. Be nice to yourself, like take it slow. Even the fact, just be like, give yourself love for the fact you're even doing it at any level or any amount of time. Just, be good to yourself.
Yeah. And like the comparison thing is so important. Like social comparisons are like the bane of like our whole society. Yeah. Man, you got to only compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today. And like, it doesn't make sense to compare yourself to anybody, because no one has the unique set of gifts, talents, and skills that you have to offer this world. And no one's path is the same as yours. And, to go back to social media again, too, people are always like displaying the best possible versions of themselves. So I think that like, if we can stop comparing ourselves against other people, it's incredibly helpful. Yeah. A big feat of self-love. And then a second piece of that is to get off of this competitive plane where we think that we're always competing against each other or in some race, and instead get on the creative plane where you're creating, where you're helping, where you're shedding love and spreading love and giving. Like, that's where the magic happens. That's when you hit that like abundance of creativity, when you do it through love, not through like clamoring at something, trying to like get some outcome, trying to compare against somebody else. It's like, man, like that's such a toxic place to be, because it breeds so much anxiety and insecurity. So I think that we got to learn to like love ourselves and appreciate that we're different, and that's good. We need diversity. It has its strengths, and the world needs like all of our uniqueness, especially right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not real. It's all made up in your head. There's no competition. Yeah. There's no ending. Yeah. There's no time. And, you know, don't get us wrong when we say like, don't compare, you know, it doesn't mean don't take inspiration and creativity. And, you know, that's, you know, none of us would even be here if it weren't for that, you know, standing on the shoulders of giants or whatever, but we're all inspired by others and people have done different things before. And like, that's okay. But when you're like, oh, I'm not as good or trying so hard, like I must be better than, you know, that's where you're missing the mark, I think. Right. So take the inspiration, but be kind to yourself and others.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Tons of really solid, usable, awesome ideas. Love that. Well, thank you guys for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. And like on the note of Valentine's Day, like let's just all like continue to fill our minds and hearts with love, like on a daily basis, every day.
Exactly.
Love thy enemy. Realize you have no enemies.
Exactly. There's a lot of love going on. Yeah. But yeah, do you have any exciting upcoming projects or events you wanted to share?
Yeah, we have an EP called Vibe Inside,
yes.
Which is dropping on February 19th on Ghetto Records, and we have 2 original tracks, and one of them is with Dread MC, and then there's 3 remixes of the Dread MC track, and we've got a music video coming out as well for it, and it's fucking cool. It's an animated music video starring Dread MC, and we kind of like make little cameo appearances in it. But yeah, so that'll be coming out soon. So we're really excited.
And it's our first American EP release. So
yeah.
Big deal.
Nice. No, that's
America.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What's the best way for fans to connect with you?
Any of our social platforms. I'd say the one that like we respond to everything on Instagram. So if you hit us up on Instagram, we're going to get back to you. Unless you say something like super mean to us, we're probably not going to get
unless you're nasty.
But yeah, we answer all of our fans and friends and everything. So Instagram is a really good way to get at us. But yeah, we're also on every other platform as well.
Spotify though.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. No, that's awesome. But yeah, no, I wanted to just say a big thank you from everyone. The viewers, the DJs, us at Vibrators. We're really excited for your Valentine's Day set. I mean, really, all the performers involved, we're doing what we're doing to spread love and good music as far and wide as we can especially in these kind of intense, isolating times. But yeah, big love to everyone affected by COVID, which is really all of us, but especially to those who've been sick with it or lost loved ones. But yeah, no, I guess this wraps up the self-love tips chat. So yeah, thank you again.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We don't drink Coke.
Yeah.